Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling, your ultimate destination for all things AEW and WWE. Whether you're a hardcore wrestling fanatic or just a casual viewer, we've got you covered with the latest news, in-depth show reviews, and our unfiltered opinions on everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Join us as we dive into the high-octane action, dramatic storylines, and backstage buzz of AEW and WWE. Get ready to step into the ring with us and stay on top of the wrestling world. This is Top Tier Wrestling. Welcome to Top Tier Wrestling. I'm your host, Josh, the Maestro of Mayhem, and joining me, as always, is my phenomenal co-host, the Countess of Clotheslines, Dawn. Tonight, we're covering WrestleMania 41, Night 1. Let's get into it. Oh, man. WrestleMania Night 1. I feel like I've been through something watching it. How about you?
Seriously, like I don't even know where to begin. It was so amazing that I feel like I was telling Josh like just minutes ago, I am overwhelmed. I'm overstimulated. Like so much happened and it was just so good.
So good. So good. I mean, that's probably a spoiler because I'll go ahead and give it to you up front. 9-5 neck nubs top tier.
Yeah.
So if that's
sure,
what you
without
came
question.
to, yep, if that's what you were coming to hear, there it is.
Yeah, there you go. Surprise. You're welcome.
Yep. So night 1, well worth the watch. It was phenomenal. And this ain't even the match that AJ Styles is in.
Yeah, and all jokes aside, we pretty much predicted most of the matches here. So I mean, this is really just going to be a celebratory run through of what happened and which ones really impressed us versus which ones left us wanting for more.
Indeed. And in the interest of time, because this is 4+ hours of programming and we're trying to keep the podcast length somewhere between an hour and a half, 2 hours, we won't be going line by line, play by play through the matches, but we will hit on the high spots and we will absolutely tell you how, the matches made us feel and how they stacked up to what we predicted on our previous episode. So that said, let's get the party started with what was the first match of the night. To open the show, they needed the main event, and that's what they got. It is main event Jey Uso challenging the World Heavyweight Champion, Gunther, for the title. Yeah, and of course, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention that Jey Uso's outfit was fucking the coolest.
It was clean.
His ring gear was fucking immaculate. Just the crispiest.
The most crispy. It said in italics on the back. It was like black and blue with sparkles in certain spots. And in italics it says main event on the back. And I mean, he just was looking clean. And so we kick it off, since it's customary for the challenger to come out before the champion. We kick it off with what everybody came to see, which is Jey Uso's entrance. And for WrestleMania, the Raiders cheerleaders were out in the stands dancing and yeeting, and they sent out flag bearers that were all carrying flags down the entrance ramp. And they were waving these flags that all said yeet in time to the music. And then, of course, Jay makes his entrance through the crowd, and he starts yeeting with the crowd, and they are eating it up. It was a fantastic WrestleMania entrance. Really, really good.
They had themselves a yeet eat.
A yeet. And so after Jay makes it into the ring, then we get Gunther's march to the ring. And nothing too different or special here, just Gunther's standard intro. Very, very much a big contrast with the black and red versus like the blue of the blue and white of Jey Uso. And immediately, they end up starting the match. And right out the gate, we're seeing a different Jey Uso here. Like, he's more focused. He's going in. And throughout the match, there's this through line of a much more focused and hardcore Jey Uso. And it shows with some of his performances. Just to illustrate some of the high spots in the way this match ended, there was a point earlier in the match where Jey hit the spear, and I think he also hits the Uso splash, and Gunther kicks out. And then there was a follow-up with that where Gunther hits with the big power bomb, and Jey kicks out. And so they're, the announcers are like, well, what's it going to take? Well, here's exactly what it took. Gunther, near the end of the match, ends up putting Jey in a fairly powerful sleeper hold, and it's looking a little bit dire there for main event Jey Uso. But he manages to make his way to the ropes. And there's a few exchanges, and I think Gunther ends up winning with let's see. He hits a big boot, but Jey drops Gunther with a rebound lariat off the ropes. But from that position, he reapplies the sleeper hold. Jey fights his way back to his feet, and this is where we start to see Jey do some stuff that Jey don't normally do. Jey immediately plows Gunther with a big release German suplex. And then he goes for the spear, but Gunther hits him with the shotgun dropkick. Gunther goes for the powerbomb, but Jey flips around and lands on his feet. And then Jey powerbombs Gunther. Now, I did not mince words or mistake myself. Jey powerbombed Gunther. And then to follow up the powerbomb, he hits 2 super kicks. Then he hits a big spear. And then he does not 1, not 2, but 3 Uso splashes, 1 from each corner. And then I'm sitting there thinking Jey's going to go for the pin, right? Nope, that's not good enough. Jey grabs Gunther from behind in a sleeper hold. Same move Gunther likes to make people tap out with, and Jey gets Gunther to tap out. And that is how Gunther drops the World Championship, and Jey Uso, the Yeet Man, becomes the new heavyweight champion. He made Gunther tap out to a sleeper hold.
So excited.
Wow.
So good. It was so good, though. I mean, honestly, that was a really great match, and I think Jey looked phenomenal.
Absolutely.
He answered a lot of calls, man.
He answered all the calls. He showed us things that we had never seen. I didn't know that Jey had it in him to powerbomb Gunther's ginormous ass. He did it, and it looked good.
Seriously, I would, and making Gunther tap out, and that's, I think you called that. That's actually something that you said was going to happen in this match. So
I'm not sure if I said it in the WrestleMania predictions, but in the build-up, I said, "Oh man, wouldn't it be something if Jey Uso was to make Gunther tap out to a sleeper hold?" Apparently, WWE thought it would be, and that's exactly how it went down. And then, of course, we have the huge celebration. Jey is a combination of elated and exhausted, and then suddenly Jimmy appears in the ring, and so he gets in and he celebrates with Jimmy, and the crowd is losing it.
Yeah.
And then
it was amazing.
It was amazing. And after some celebration, Jey and Jimmy head up through the crowd to exit the arena. And it was great. It was everything I hoped it would be. I know there's a lot of people online that didn't think either Jey deserved it or thought it was predictable. I thought it was super satisfying, and it was wonderful, and it was everything I wanted it to be. Actually, it was even more so because, I mean, the way Jey won that through the series of just rapid fire offense and then making him tap out to the sleeper was amazeballs.
That was
So
great. That was fantastic. Like I don't know.
yeah.
That was fantastic. It was great.
So suffice it to say, WrestleMania is off to a flaming hot start. Really good. That then brings us to our second match of the night. After a fairly decent video recap of the feud, our next match is the War Raiders versus the New Day, or the Boo Day, depending on who you ask, for the World Tag Team Championship. And what were your thoughts on this match?
Um, I think I called the ending to this match. I think I called the winner in our predictions episode. But this
Yeah, I think so.
this um it wasn't a bad match. Okay? Nobody flubbed any moves, nobody nobody didn't sell a move or nothing like that happened. It was a good match, except I don't know if it was because it was coming off of the like high octane match of Jay Uso versus Gunther or not, but it just kind of felt lacking. Like it felt, for one, quick. It felt like a rushed match, and two, it felt like more could have happened. So like when they did the opener, when they showed the backstory on how we got to this match, they started all the way back to when Big E showed up, which made me go, "Oh my God, is Big E gonna show up?" But I guess it was just so that they could explain how the New Day became the Boo Day. Um, so it kind of just, I don't know. It just kind of felt like there could have been more. And then I saw Big E's face, but I saw no Big E during the match. I saw nothing in relation to Big E. So I guess I was kind of expecting something like that to happen. Even after the match was over and the New Day were walking up the ramp, I was still expecting somebody to come up from behind or something. I just was expecting more. That's what I'm saying. I think I was expecting more to happen, and it just kind of, it just didn't. But I mean, again, it wasn't a bad match. Mm.
No, I agree with you, and it may be unfair because in my predictions, I went to kind of a long shot possibility, or not really a long shot possibility, but what I thought was a really cool possibility that maybe the War Raiders come out, but like Big E is with them, and it gets in the heads of the New Day, but then ultimately it's a double switch, and Big E really ends up helping the New Day, and we find out that they've been playing the long game all along. And when I explained that, I think it painted a picture for a much cooler storyline than the WWE decided to go with in this match, and therefore
Yeah.
it feels like a letdown because there was some potential to do a lot more with this.
Yeah.
Now that potential still, I guess, kind of exists. They could do something like that in the future because it's kind of a weird way to leave off the Big E thing, like, and not have it kind of turn into something. But who knows? I don't know Big E's health. Maybe that was not a
Yeah.
possibility that could have ever manifested. So it's just fantasy booking. But I do think that painted a picture of a much cooler match and outcome than the much more straightforward way that this match turned out, which was it was a fairly good slobber knocker, you know, with Eric and Ivar kind of like bodying Woods and Kofi for a good portion of it.
As
And
you would
then
expect.
and then through some quickness and not necessarily like shenanigans like cheating. I don't think they actually had to resort to that here, but like just good like timing on the part of Kofi and Xavier. Um, Ultimately, when Eric and Ivar attempted to hit the Viking experience, Kofi denied it, and he ends up blocking the War Machine, and Woods ends up getting like a big boot off on, I want to say, Ivar, and that's also a simultaneous tag to Woods, which allows the New Day with an isolated opponent. I think maybe Eric. They connect with the Daylight and pick up the victory, and then they scamper out of the ring. Like, they hustle because
they ran.
they're like, we got the belts, cool, holla, because they figured, I guess they figured that the War Raiders were going to be pissed and they didn't want that smoke. But it was a quick match, but the fast escape of the New Day as the new title champions and how quickly it kind of all took place maybe added to that feeling of it was real quick.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe time constraints. I mean, there's any number of reasons that this didn't, live up to the possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad match though. Like I have to reiterate that it was not a bad match. I was waiting for something else though, and I don't know. Like it may have been that, maybe because we talked about Big E showing up, but it did not help that they showed Big E to us before the match. That he was
which fueled that fire. Yeah,
right. He was like an integral part of the story here, so it just made me immediately go, "Oh, Big E." So, that didn't help. But again, just not a bad. It was not a bad match. I just want to make sure that everybody knows it was not.
No, I agree. I just don't feel like it lived up to maybe the fair or not expectations we had for it. Because I don't think it's wildly unfair to have thought maybe Big E would play some part here at WrestleMania 41.
Yeah.
Since that was the foundational point for the New Day turning heel.
Yeah.
And this feels like it should have been the culmination. And like you said, they showed it in the intro. So it was very, I don't know. I guess we expected more, and I don't know if we were unfair in that or if it was a fair expectation, but it didn't do what I thought it was going to do. Yeah. Again, that's no fault of the match. The match was perfectly straightforward, did what it had to do. But if I'm being honest, this was a match that could have taken place on any SmackDown on any other night. And so, while I don't have anything super negative to say about it, it didn't live up to expectations, is kind of where it fell for me. And it could have done more. And you made the very good point that it came on the heels of the super cathartic and amazing match that Jey Uso and Gunther started the show with.
Yeah.
So it might have just had too many things working against it, even though it was a completely sound match. Nobody messed anything up. It was fine.
Yeah.
And after this match, we get shown around and there's some name dropping. Michael Shea's in the audience. Jelly Roll's in the house. Or at least what's left of him, because Jelly Roll has somehow lost like half of himself, like 200 pounds down, I think is what they said. Impressive. Well done, by the way.
Yeah, indeed.
And we also find out that I think Bayley was viciously attacked by Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez during the kickoff show.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lyra Valkyria is going to have to find a new tag partner for tomorrow's tag team championship match. So that's a neat mystery.
Yeah.
In addition to that, that's not the only replacement that we had to deal with. Apparently, also earlier in the evening during the kickoff show, we find out that Rey Mysterio sustained an injury on SmackDown and therefore will not be able to participate in the match that he had with El Grande Americano, and instead, as a substitute opponent for El Grande Americano, will be the new Rey Fénix. And I believe in our prediction show, I think I stated that I thought I had heard on the winds that Rey Mysterio was hurt and there'll probably be a substitution, either Dragon Lee or Rey Fénix, and you said you were hoping for Rey Fénix, so there you go.
Yep. And
all right.
Rey Fénix, we done acquired.
Oh, man. That immediately ups the ante. No offense to Rey Mysterio, but like Rey Fénix is crazy in the ring, and seriously. I know Chad Gable can absolutely meet him at that level, so it's going to elevate the match like through the roof.
Yeah.
That brings us to the third match of the night, and this was one that we were super waiting for because both of these ladies and the story and the build-up have been so amazing, and that is Jade Cargill versus Proceed with Caution Cakes Naomi.
Caution Cakes.
And a big part of why
match.
a big part of why I think this match meant so much to me. Because I mean, yeah, it's not Cena and Cody. It's not Jay. But I was really like, they painted a wonderful picture here, like with the whole mystery of who threw Jade into the car and made her Jade Cargill. And then it turns out it was Naomi, and you've got this three-way friendship triangle between Naomi and Jade and Bianca. And I mean, it was just well built. And then to set it all off with a cherry on top, Naomi has transformed into like this psycho stalker, almost like Bianca's psycho stalker X.
Yeah.
Doing things like, I know you got the messages because they were show delivered. It's like, what, you stalker, you creepy stalker. And so Naomi is pulling off like super unhinged, and she's got the look down. She had new gear and a darker entrance, and she looked amazing coming to the ring. And then of course Jade Cargill shows up. And they did this wonderful intro where it was like a weatherman pointing out that in Las Vegas, Nevada, where this is taking place, the skies are clear. Oh, wait, there's some thunder. Oh, the winds are kicking up. Well, guys, it's time to take cover because it looks like a storm's coming. And I was like, oh. And then Jade comes out and she looks like a superhero. She's jacked. Her hair looks good.
Yeah.
And I will gladly turn it over to you if you would like to say some things about this match. But I was thrilled with it too.
No, this match is exactly what I thought it was going to be. The promo or the vignette that they cut before the match was fucking fire. And the costumes looked great. They looked great. Their moves looked great. They worked well together. This was definitely the women's match of the night. The women's match of the night. Without question. And yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say except for, yeah, it was really good storytelling, really good action, and I cannot wait to see what happens come Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown. Wherever we see these ladies, I can't wait to hear the aftermath and see what happens there.
Yeah,
and also I am here for evil Naomi. I am here for Dark Cakes.
Yes, Darth Cakes is amazing. This will make more sense when we get to talking about the upcoming Charlotte and Stratton match, but this was the polar opposite of that match in nearly every way. This match reflects people that are getting into good character, cutting good promos, creating an amazing build-up and an excellent story arc, and then delivering with a hell of a great match in the ring at WrestleMania.
Yes.
And this was a great match. Like, for 90% of this match, Naomi is just beating the brakes off of Jade Cargill. And like, she's tapped into the dark spirit, like there was, just to hit a couple of high spots, there was a point where she drags Naomi out, draping her off of the apron, similar to how like Randy Orton drags people through the middle rope and drapes them. So Jade is face down and being held by two hands, at the head by Naomi, and Naomi drops into an X Factor to the floor, and it looked like that just murdered Jade.
Yeah.
And there was also a point where Naomi throws a blockbuster outside of the ring. She jumps off the ring steps and hits Cargill with a blockbuster on the floor. And so, I mean, she is quite literally beating the brakes off of Jade Cargill, which I'm pretty sure nobody was thinking would be the case.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a side of Naomi here where she is just bringing all of her wrestling chops to bear. And so it's like, oh man, is this heels up tonight? Is Naomi going to take it?
Yeah.
But then there's a point in the match where Naomi tries, I want to say, a middle rope dive, and Cargill catches her. I think she actually was attempted to do a blockbuster in the ring again, and Cargill catches her vertical suplex style, mind you, like just straight up, like, nope. And then from that vertical suplex catch, spins her around into a jackhammer. And it was around this time that I feel like the momentum shifted into Cargill's favor. That jackhammer gets a 2 count. Naomi once they get kind of back on their feet, she ends up drilling Cargill with a knee lift, but Cargill bounces off the ropes and hits a ginormous pump kick that looks like it just knocked Naomi's head off her neck. And so at this point, Cargill's super fired up. I want to say she then tries to go for an O'Connor roll. Naomi, ends up decking her with a back elbow and goes for a flying crossbody block. But this time, again, Cargill catches her straight out the air and immediately hits her with a big fall-away slam. And then Cargill kips up, takes a bow, and then she walks over to Naomi. They try to ascend to the top turnbuckle, or rather, Cargill goes up to the top turnbuckle, but Naomi hits a roundhouse kick because Naomi can kick God in heaven. She just puts the leg straight up there. And then they set it up in such a way that Naomi is able to hit a avalanche bulldog, and Naomi then proceeds to drag Cargill to the corner, and she's able to hit her split-legged moonsault. And at that point, we're thinking, oh shit, Naomi's gonna win this thing. And then Naomi also follows that up because it only gets a 2 count, and she follows that up with a couple super kicks. She tries to go for a third, but Cargill counters out of that, and she attempts to go for Jaded, but gets rolled up by Naomi only for a 2 count. And Naomi flips that around into a Rings of Saturn. And I'm like, man, Naomi is bringing out every offensive tool she has. And I want to say Cargill ends up rolling her over and lifting her up off of the mat, just straight deadlifting her into a fireman's carry. But she fights her way out of it. And then she goes for a roundhouse kick that Cargill avoids. And Cargill then puts Naomi up into an electric chair position and then does a move I've never seen Cargill do. From the electric chair position where they're both facing the same direction, right? Their faces are pointing the same way. She kind of walks Naomi to the middle of the ring, jumps up a little bit, and turns a 180 into a power bomb to Naomi. And that looked insane. But instead of going for a pin, she picks up Naomi immediately into a very solid looking, really sweet, high impact looking Jaded. And just that quick, Jade Cargill picks up the victory. But this was a beast mode match between these two amazing women.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, honestly, it was the women's match of the night, without question.
Without question. And then, following that match, there was only a brief celebration by Jade, and Naomi just stayed in the ring for the most of it. But immediately we cut away to being horrified because we've got Cardi B in 3D in our faces. They've got the lens so close to Cardi B.
Again. They tried to kill us again.
Yeah, they got us on SmackDown, and they scared the crap out of us with Cardi B again on this episode, at this PLE WrestleMania Night 1.
Yeah,
again to let us, again to let us know that Cardi B will be hosting WWE's SummerSlam's 2-night event at the MetLife Stadium.
To let us know that at any moment she could eat our souls. Yeah, we know.
yeah. And that brings us to the 4th match of WrestleMania Night 1. LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu. And Solo came out with him, but Solo didn't stick around. They walked out onto the ramp, and Solo kind of gave him a fist bump and a hug, and then Solo stayed as Jacob came to the ring. And this is for the WWE United States Championship. And what were your thoughts on this match?
That it happened exactly as I had predicted it. What mere days before the match, I thought LA Knight looked good. Jacob Fatu looked good. They worked very well together. Jacob Fatu is a generational talent. He is a force to be reckoned with, and I appreciate the fact that WWE saw the there's no other way to put it, the cash cow that Jacob Fatu is, and they are on that bandwagon because now like he's just showed up, and I'm sorry, sometimes it's just your moment. Now is his time. Like he showed up and was like, "Yep, my time now." Um, and it's well deserved. It's a well deserved, and it's well earned. And this match was good. So this match made Jacob Fatu look even more phenomenal, but it did not bury uh LA Knight at all. That
No,
is
not at
not
all.
what happened. LA Knight brought it. Um
Yeah, agreed.
yeah. And this is his second title defense for this particular run. And I kind of feel like LA Knight is of the mindset that he would much rather have like in his stats how many times he's been the champion instead of how long he held the belt. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be more appealing to him. So him if he had to give the belt or had to drop the belt to someone, I think he would be more concerned with how are we getting there? How are we getting to that story? Is it going to be a banger, or are you guys going to try to bury me? So I think he would appreciate that this was not a burial. This was a phenomenal match between these two. Jacob looked more seasoned than he should. I mean, he looked more experienced than he is. And yeah, again, phenomenal. I know that he's not brand new to wrestling, but I also know that he isn't like a 15-year veteran either. So yeah, great match though. Great match.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think Fatu, he does have more experience than just his main roster run here,
Yeah.
but he is soaking this up like a sponge. Like he is made for this.
Yeah.
And I will say this: these two men, this if you wanted one match that would give you a highlight reel for either of these two men, this is it. You saw
Yeah.
everything that LA Knight has in his arsenal and everything that Jacob Fatu has in his arsenal. So in some cases twice. They really put each other through the ringer. Just to hit on a couple of really interesting high spots, I did see Knight do something that I had not seen him do before. There was a point where Jacob Fatu hit him with the pop-up Samoan drop, and then later he tries to do it again. But this time, LA Knight counters with a crucifix bomb. I've never seen him do a crucifix bomb. Maybe he's just not had the occasion where it was just the right move to counter the Samoan drop, but it looked fantastic.
Yep.
And I mean, other than that, it literally was like every high spot that Jacob does and every high spot that LA Knight does. Like you would see everything out of both of these men. They both left it absolutely all in the ring. It was amazing. And just to kind of recap how things headed into the finish in this massive match, near the end of the match, we have Knight kicking Fatu in the gut, and then he goes for the BFT, and Fatu, denies him. And then he super kicks Knight, and then he nails Knight with 3 running hip attacks in the corner, like back to back. And that's bad news bears for LA Knight right there. But to top it off, and I don't know if we've seen this out of Jacob Fatu, I believe we have, we just don't see it often. But Fatu ascends to the top rope, having rolled LA Knight kind of, out of the corner and into the position to be dived upon. He absolutely hits a flawless looking swanton bomb. Now, we've seen swanton bombs, and we've seen them for bigger guys like Kevin Owens, but I don't think we've seen this kind of athleticism from a guy who is just shy of 300 pounds. Like, Jacob Fatu's in there at like 290 something. So he is incredibly agile for a guy carrying that much weight. He's just impressive.
Yep.
He follows that up with repeated headbutts to LA Knight. And then he attempts to go for the double jump moonsault. And this I had never seen out of LA Knight. LA Knight meets him similar to Randy Orton doing an anti-air RKO. He catches a moonsaulting Jacob Fatu out of the air with a BFT. And this would have been it, except that the proximity to the ropes allowed Jacob Fatu to just grab the ropes to get out of it. And LA Knight is just livid. He's like, what? What? Because he thought he had it won.
Yeah.
So LA Knight then ascends to the top turnbuckle. Jacob Fatu meets him and grabs Knight by his throat. Knight kind of fights him off with 3 haymakers. But Fatu runs up the middle rope and kicks Knight in the ribs, and then he leaps up and does something I've never seen anybody do, because at this point, LA Knight is sort of laid across the top ropes in ways similar to we've seen what Shinsuke will lay somebody across the top ropes and do. He usually hits with a running knee. So Fatu hits Knight in the ribs with a kick and then leaps up off the middle rope and spins in the air to do a senton. Like he turns around and like reverse headbutts him, but it looks like a senton. Yeah, and then he climbs up there, grabs up LA Knight, and hits him with an avalanche Samoan drop. And we were a little worried about this one, I remember, because it looked like LA Knight put his arm down, and it looked like he might have landed it poorly. I don't know if he did, but there was definitely some apprehension. Like when we saw that, we were like, ee!
Yeah.
And after he hits the avalanche Samoan drop, Knight, unfortunately for him, is in the perfect position for not one, but 2 double jump moonsaults, which results in the 1, 2, 3 and a victory for Jacob Fatu, making him the brand new WWE United States champion by pinfall.
Well...
And it was an amazing match. And at the end, Haku comes out and briefly congratulates Jacob Fatu. He didn't get in the ring. Haku just sort of met him outside the ring, and Jacob, reached through the middle rope to commiserate with him. And it was great. It was a fantastic showing. Yeah. It went 1 for 1 like you had predicted. I believe my prediction was, again, far more elaborate. I predicted that maybe Solo and Tama get involved at some point that ends up screwing Jacob out of the win. And this leads to a program where Solo and Jacob have a falling out and they start fighting amongst themselves. Clearly not the direction they went. And I'm not disappointed at all. Like Jacob Fatu just straight up winning here is just as good. And again, that doesn't obviate that storyline manifesting later. It just didn't happen tonight.
Yeah.
So, well done, Jacob Fatu. All of the flowers. You are a fantastic talent and just a wonderful treasure and a pleasant surprise that the WWE got their hands on in 2024. So kudos. I believe this is your first singles title win, because I think you had a tag title win back when Tonga Loa got his eye hurt, but then Solo made you give the belt back to Tama Tonga. So, congrats.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Congratulations. We then find out, once again, they play the video package of The Rock announcing it, that WrestleMania 42 is coming to Caesars Superdome in Nolens, Louisiana. Not, as The Rock said, New Orleans. Nolens.
As long as he didn't say New Orleans.
It wasn't far. Then we also find out, and this was a bit of a surprise for me, but it leads to an even bigger surprise. We see that El Hijo, I don't know. My Texas Spanish is failing me. I think it's El Hijo or
El Jojo.
El Hijo del Vikingo.
I like how you just ignored what you were like. Yeah.
Well, I know it's clearly not El Jojo. I'm sitting here legit trying to pronounce it correctly. But El Hijo del Vikingo is sitting in the front row, and we've seen Vikingo over in AEW.
Yeah.
And we find out from the announcers, I think Michael Cole just sort of blasé announces that WWE purchased AAA Lucha, and I was like, wait, what? They bought out that whole promotion? And they just sort of leave it there, and then they show us Dana White, who is looking into the camera, and he's like, "Yeah, okay, cool. Can
Can I
move
watch the
on?"
wrestling, please? They just kept showing, like, Dana White was looking at the camera like, please go away. I just wanna watch the okay, still staring at me, huh? All right.
Yeah, they have a habit in some cases of just leaving, like when they're showing you who's in the audience, they just leave the cameraman there, and some of these people are like, I'm just watching the show.
Can we
I
not?
don't
I'm
know
just
what
trying
more
to
you want from me. Um, but that then leads us into our fifth match, which is or was Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano, but is now Rey Phoenix versus El Grande Americano. And I was so here for this. Like there's an element of comedic cheesiness that is integral. It's been with pro wrestling forever, and I hope it never leaves. And this is that, and I was
Yeah.
so here for it. And they give us this whole wonderful like build up video package of
Oh my
how El
god.
Grande Americano has
It
been a
had me
tradition of
dying.
it was so good. He had been a lucha libre tradition for the longest, but they try to deny him, and it's so good because it's dubbed.
The
So
voiceover. Just oh my
it's like
god.
bad dubbing of something in English that came off of Telemundo, and it's the best. It was so great. Oh, it was so good. And that led directly into El Grande Americano's entrance, which had a whole like on either side of the entrance ramp there are mariachi players, and they're all wearing El Grande Americano masks, and it was just the cheesiest thing. There was so much, I guess I should say, so much queso to keep it in the spirit. And I mean, it was everything. Even Alicia Fox announcing, I'm sorry, Alicia Taylor announcing that he's from the Gulf of America. Oh, chef's kiss.
Yeah.
This is sports entertainment's finest right here. This was so good. I couldn't function. I had tears in my eyes. I was laughing so hard. Um, what were your thoughts on this particular match?
Whenever I knew that this match was coming up next, I just kept calling it the comedic relief. But even like all jokes aside, this match was good. Of course, Ray Phoenix like his first freaking WrestleMania bout. Jesus, like what did he show up 2 days ago?
Yeah, I
Like
think he's been here like a week, right?
yeah, like
Maybe
2 or 3
two.
days ago, they're like, hey, guess what you're doing? WrestleMania. So
Yeah, nice.
that had to have been like freaking crazy on the nerves. Um, but he still pulled it out just fine. Um, they both look good. Chad Gable, I'm sorry. Uh, El Grande Americano is amazing. Like seriously.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
crazy stunts, man. Um, so yeah, this match definitely delivered. It delivered on the camp, it delivered on the funny, but it also delivered on the actual moves. Like these dudes brought it. They brought it, and it was very very fun, very good to watch.
Absolutely agree. Yes, the commitment to this angle just makes it all the funnier. Like there was a point where Pat McAfee, because Michael Cole is ardently saying, "Dude, that's clearly Chad Gable." Like the whole time, he's like, "That's Chad Gable," and Pat McAfee and Wade are like, "Nope, we've seen Chad Gable and El Grande Americano at the same time," referring back to that interview where somebody dressed as El Grande Americano was escorted out of the building while Chad Gable was getting interviewed by Kathy Kelly. And I mean, they just gaslight Michael Cole into the ground. It was so good. Oh, it was so good. The commitment to this like long running gag story arc is so great.
Yeah,
And
I
then
agree.
you add to it, then you add to it that we get an amazing match. I mean, for the majority of this match, I'm not going to say all of it because obviously El Grande Americano gets, some moves off. I want to say we saw a release German suplex. We saw a angle lock, and it's just coincidental. It's totally coincidental that those are very similar to the move sets of one Chad Gable. But we also got to see like some of the greatest hits of Ray Phoenix. He hit this amazing missile drop kick that looked literally like a missile. Like sometimes a missile drop kick doesn't look like it connects enough. This one looked like it connected and then some. We also got to see Ray Phoenix hit the Adios Amigo kick. We got to see Ray Phoenix hit the Black Fire Driver, which I thought they were going to maybe not let him do, but apparently they're like, yeah, you can do it. And El Grande Americano sells it beautifully. And we got to see El Grande Americano hit like a bridging Northern Lights suplex off of Phoenix, like jumping from the apron over the top rope at him, and I think he hits like a bridging Northern Lights as the counter, and it's ridiculous. But ultimately, as we come to the end portion of this match, there is a point where El Grande Americano lands a crazy move that I've never seen, like a 450 senton splash. So he starts as like a moonsault, but instead of being just one revolution, from to where he's belly down, he does another whole revolution, like a 450, and it ends up being a senton. And this was insane. Yeah. And then El Grande Americano tries to remove Phoenix's mask. And Phoenix counters with a leaping boot and a knee lift. And that's when he hits the Black Fire Driver for a 2 count. And I want to say Phoenix then attempts the Goodbye Amigo kick, but Americano, grabs hold of the top rope and trips Phoenix down off of the rope and pulls him back into the ring, but then the ref breaks him up. So that sends Americano to the opposite turnbuckle where he turns away from the ref who's tending to Phoenix. And we can all see this. Americano takes a steel plate and places it in the forehead portion of his mask. And once they kind of get reset, Phoenix, goes for a roll through Hurricane Rana, and then he sets Americano up for the Goodbye Amigo, or the Goodbye Americano in this case. And after he hits the kick, which lands, Phoenix starts favoring his right ankle. And at first, Michael Cole's lost. He's like, wow, I guess he hurt his ankle. And fortunately, Pat McAfee's like, well, I think he kicked that steel plate that's in Americano's mask. Which, hey, Michael, are you new?
Sometimes he is.
Sometimes. But, so the prevailing story is that he hurt his ankle because he kicked Americano's steel plate, and Americano then sees that he's favoring an ankle and applies an ankle lock, although I think he applied it to the leg that wasn't the one that was being favored. Yes. So this allows Phoenix to roll Americano over as a counter for a 2 count, and then Phoenix ducks a clothesline from Americano, but Phoenix then comes off the rope. And I'm not sure if he was trying to do like maybe a flying crossbody or even a flying headbutt of his own, but he runs into Americano's head. And so Phoenix just sort of lands like dead weight from this attempted dive, like off the rope. And that's when Americano ascends to the top rope and hits a diving headbutt, which with that steel plate in the mask is like, you're done, son. So that's when Americano is able to pick up the victory. And so once again, El Grande Americano is the absolute definition and the spirit of lucha libre.
Yeah, my predictions were not correct.
I'm trying to remember, what was your prediction?
I believe I predicted that that well, first of all, I said it was Rey Mysterio because this was before he was not going to be able to compete. But I said that Rey Mysterio was going to win, and and at first, or I think still, the thing was, if he won, he would get the mask of El Grande.
El Grande Americano, yeah.
And when he did so, there would be another mask underneath that El Grande was wearing. That was my prediction. So, off, a little incorrect, but I think I got all the rest of them.
I think between us, like, the suggestion that Ray was going to be replaced, and then you were like, you hope it's Ray Phoenix. We got that part right for sure.
Yeah.
I think I recall saying, I'm not sure exactly how this will go down. I just am here for it because it will be amazing. But at the end, Vikingo gets into the ring and assists Phoenix back up onto his feet. And following that, we find out the official announcement for what Michael Cole kind of let slip earlier, that the WWE has officially acquired the AAA Lucha Libre promotion from Mexico, and that there will be a WWE Worlds Collide special that will be taking place at the Kia Forum in June 7th. And I mean, that's not a small announcement, Oh, and by the way, WWE bought some other promotion. What's next? Like New Japan? But that's amazing. So I guess we can expect to see a lot more like Lucha Libre.
Let's go.
And WWE. It looks like TKO Holdings and the WWE are attempting to strike at AEW's Forbidden Door, one of the value propositions of that promotion, because they have ties with CMLL and New Japan Pro Wrestling that allows them to do like exchange program, kind of stuff. And it looks like WWE's like, well, two can play at that, and we've got a lot more money.
Yeah.
So, wow, jaw on floor that they just straight bought one of the two or so major promotions in Mexico for Lucha Libre. Nicely done.
Mm-hmm.
Following that, we get a special announcement from Shawn Michaels, who comes out to his music, and the crowd is all cheering for HBK. And he lets us know that 61,467 members of the WWE Universe have sold out night one of WrestleMania at the Allegiant Stadium. Well done. Well done. And that leads us to the sixth match of the night. And if it wasn't obvious from the comparison I made earlier regarding how this was the opposite of everything that like Naomi and Cargill was, this unfortunately ended up being probably the most disappointing match of the night.
Just wasn't there for me, man. Their chemistry wasn't there. It was lacking. The entire match was lacking. There were some times where freaking Charlotte sandbagged Tiffy. There were times where she made, and I have to say Charlotte, because I like a lot of the problems that I saw stood out because it was Charlotte doing them. Like, it was just okay, maybe not a train wreck, but definitely close, man. Like it wasn't there. It wasn't there. And I don't know what this thing is that they keep doing where they keep dressing these two ladies similar to each other. But can we fucking stop, please? I don't know what we were doing here. Like what are you doing? You're trying to like, oh well, look, Tiffany wears it better. Well, okay, but what does that have to do with the fucking match though?
Yeah.
Like what a match at? What the wrestlers
Well,
doing?
yeah, I agree.
It wasn't. It wasn't. And after coming or going through all these other like matches that were just hyped, this match just was like it stuck out like a sore thumb. It stuck out like a sore thumb because it wasn't entertaining. It wasn't action packed. It wasn't a technical marvel, man. It it was unfortunate is what it was. It was just as bad and awkward as the second promo.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. After the relatively awful build-up between these two, I even said on at least two shows prior, like the SmackDown like the other night and the SmackDown the week before, when the I think abysmal promos were happening, that this buildup is ass. And unfortunately, I said the only hope I had for it is that they could give us a banger of a match.
Yeah.
Nope.
They couldn't do it.
And that disappoints me because I know I've seen better out of Charlotte, and I know I believe I've seen better out of Stratton. So I don't know if these two ladies just have abysmal chemistry, or if maybe Charlotte needed some more like in-ring or warm-up time. I don't know where the problem lies. I just know that this was not a good match. This ultimately would not have been a good match on like SmackDown. Like this wouldn't have been like, oh my gosh, this is the main event of SmackDown. So it absolutely was pitiful on night one of WrestleMania, in my opinion. Relatively early on in the match, I mean, they both had fantastic over the top entrances. Like, I'll at least mention that to say something positive here. Tiffany Stratton comes out and there's three covered boxes, and they pull the covers down, and these are boxes that are supposed to be like Barbie boxes provided by Mattel, I guess. And there's images of Tiffany Stratton in different outfits in the box up to the left and to the right, and in the center box is actual Tiffany Stratton. And I believe the illusion they were going for is like, oh, which one's the real one? But it was completely obvious to everyone with eyeballs which one was the right one. So it didn't really live up to the illusion. I wasn't trying to peg it too hard on that because I see what they were going for. So it was a cute entrance where it was, she's Barbie Tiffany or Battle Barbie. And then Charlotte Flair had a very like it feels like it's less I'm the queen and more like I'm super wealthy kind of a situation. Yeah. But she pulls up in, what did they say, a Mercedes?
I don't know, some fancy
or
car.
Something like a Mercedes or a Bentley or something. And it's a nice looking car, and the chauffeur I think opens the door for her, and she steps out, and she's got the whole big over the top Charlotte Flair robe, and we were like, okay, yeah, this is what we came to see, not Charlotte in dominatrix gear. But you're right. Like ultimately, they both end up wearing something that looks like pink and white. So it's like, sparkles. Did y'all coordinate again?
Yeah, like how does this keep happening?
Like, is there some joke that like, oh, we'll make these two blondes look completely alike, and somehow in the match we'll forget which one's which? I just don't know what you were going for here.
Man, no idea. But there they were, dressing similar. Twinsies, I guess. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, outside of the entrances, that's kind of where it ends. Because the match feels a little clunky. It feels like they're not on the same note. And relatively early on, like I can't even say about the halfway point of the match. It's like after the first third, it seemed like both women were gassed.
Yeah.
because their moves start losing impact. There was one that was real bad where like Charlotte, pulled Stratton down for what was supposed to be a backbreaker, but it just looked like she laid her on her knee. Like there was no energy to it. There was no impact to it. It was like we're just going through the motions. There
Yeah.
was a Alabama slam that Tiffany set up, but then delivered it into the corner in such a way that instead of it having any impact, it was like Charlotte was like a wet noodle slamming into nothing. Like it had no impact.
Yeah.
So it turned into this really kind of boring match of zero impact, zero energy, to the degree that we were like hoping that some of these false finishes were just the finish, because it just wasn't, especially with everything else that we had seen so far this evening. This wasn't it.
Yeah.
And this wasn't the banger that it needed to be to
Mm-mm.
get past how crap the buildup was. I really don't find that Charlotte and Tiffany have good chemistry together, so I kind of hope that matchup doesn't happen again. And I'm with you. I don't know who's to blame. But I do know that the last time I saw Charlotte in a WrestleMania match, it was with Rhea Ripley, and they put on a damn banger.
Yeah.
So take that for what you will. This just wasn't it. Ultimately, Stratton, after the wet noodle Alabama slam into the turnbuckle, she does a rolling senton to like basically picks up Charlotte in a fireman's carry and does a rolling senton near the opposite corner and connects with the prettiest moonsault ever to pick up the victory. And weakest match of the night, unfortunately.
Oh God, yes.
I'm sad to have to report that, but that is how we see it at TTW. This was not a good match. Moving on from there, we are told that the Backlash PLE, which is the PLE immediately or the soonest one that will take place after WrestleMania, will take place on May 10th in St. Louis, Missouri. That's Randy Orton country. Ooh. We also were shown a very nice vignette of the Hall of Fame ceremony. Great inductions. I won't run it through if you're interested. I'm sure all of that information is online, but Triple H did give a very cool speech at the end of which he says, if you're down with that, I have 2 words for you. And the audience all says, suck it. And he's like, well, actually, I was thinking thank you, but, and that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see Lex Luger be able to come out there and stand up for his induction. And kudos to Diamond Dallas Page for working with him to make that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're interested in the Hall of Fame, absolutely take a look at it online. It sounds like it was a pretty cool ceremony this year. Following that, we arrive at the 7th match of the night, which is the main event. It is the absolutely massive triple threat match with CM Punk, with Paul Heyman, Roman Reigns, and Seth freaking Rollins in a triple threat match. And we got some cool intros. Like Seth Elise came out and it looked like at first we were like, what is he wearing? He comes out with a flamethrower wearing what looks like a black trash bag made out of silk. And we're like, what is it? What? Like, I'm used to Seth being eclectic, but literally a trash bag?
Yeah,
or a sleeping bag? And he right when it says burn it down in his intro, he does the whole, he actually fires up his flamethrower and, lets it go off for a little bit, and then all the lights go out. And we were like, what's happening? Is the Undertaker showing up? And after a few moments of darkness, it comes back and it's all white. Instead of the flames, it's just all white. Almost like it reminded us of Shawn Michaels when he was the angelic opposite of the Undertaker, but I think it also is a callback to Seth Rollins as the Messiah. And he had all white shades now and was wearing all white, and all of the graphics and everything went from like the burn it down to all white. and it was great. It was like transformative, and Seth makes his way to the ring, and he gets the whole crowd singing his song, and he even hits the kind of like, Seth on the cross pose. And I think he was going for that effect because the glasses he swapped into had what looked almost like a crown of thorns. So maybe Seth was celebrating Easter a little bit right here, or it just happened to work out that he could do a little bit of all of that, call back to his former persona, celebrate a little bit of Easter if maybe that's his bag. But it was great. It was really cool, and Seth looked awesome. And
he
then
did indeed.
Then Roman Reigns has his entrance, and it's got all of the pomp and circumstance. Nothing extra. There wasn't like a choir singing it or anything, but Roman kind of makes his way out, throws his ones up. Everybody is here for the OTC, and he's looking fantastic, like he's in the greatest shape of his life. He's got really cool little gauntlets on his hands, and he's wearing a clean set of like black and white Air Force Ones or Jordans. And he makes his way to the ring, throws his ones up. He's got the Ulafala on, but he's all by himself. There's no bloodline. There's no wise man. It's just Roman. And then we get to CM Punk's entrance, and it is like a video package of CM Punk, throughout the years, talking about how he's straight edge, talking about how he's got one addiction, it's pro wrestling. Then some of the stuff with Paul Heyman, and it culminates in a fantastic rendition of Cult of Personality performed by Living Color?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think so.
Like the actual band is there, and they sing CM Punk and Paul Heyman out to the ring. And this is the absolute best entrance for CM Punk ever, anywhere, ever. And I mean, it was pretty cool. I am on record as not being a CM Punk fan. I have got nothing but that this was an amazing entrance for CM Punk. And as we will find out, a very good showing at his WrestleMania main event debut.
Yeah.
Before I get into the match, now that we're past those epic entrances, what were your thoughts on this?
I thought this match, first of all, it sounded like it was going to deliver. On paper, it sounds like it's going to be a high octane, ridiculous ridiculousness sandwich, and that's exactly what it was.
Oh, you got me. I thought you were going to be like, but or however. No, yeah,
no.
It was everything you think it would be.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
Yes, sir. It was exactly what you would think that this match would be. Whenever you thought, oh man, they're doing a great job of making CM Punk look good, then they did a great job of making Seth freaking Rollins look good, and then they made a great job of making Roman Reigns look good. Like, this match was a slobber knocker. I can't even go through like you guys know I don't know the names of these moves and all that. But there were so many freaking counters and so many God, just Seth alone. When there was a time where Roman was about to do a spear, he was going into a spear to Seth, and Seth took the spear. And what is the move that he does? Oh my god, you know what I'm talking about.
Seth Stomp?
No, where he puts their hands behind their back and drops them face first. Pedigree, thank you. He not transfers, but he changes the spear. He counters it with a pedigree.
Pedigree,
and it was freaking amazing. Like, this match.
Yeah.
Honestly. And I did not get, my predictions were not correct about this match, but in crazy 1 in a million, you should go get a lottery ticket fashion, this match was almost verbatim to what Josh had predicted in our last WrestleMania predictions episode.
Which I got one.
my freaking wig back. Donald, you didn't just get one. You got a big one. Like
Yeah, I got the
is
main
for all
event.
the cookies. But I honestly thought, yeah, great match.
Yeah, this really was a great match. I guess this will be, well, a prediction and a spoiler, because anybody who was listening to my prediction for this match knows that I had picked the guy that nobody was looking at, Seth Rollins, to be the winner.
Yeah.
And that Paul Heyman is going to betray both CM Punk and Roman Reigns. And that is exactly what happened. But let me walk them there. Just to go through some of the psychology in the story, we've got at the beginning of the match all three of these men, nothing but vitriol for one another. And for a little bit, they're sitting there looking like they can't decide whose ass they want to kick first. And then Punk rolls out of the ring and he goes over and puts his arm around Paul Heyman. And, he's like, "Wise man, counsel me." And this just pisses Roman off. And you've got Seth, who is the eternal shit stirrer, talking about how Punk doesn't belong here. You see this shit? It should just be you and me in here. We should go get him. And, he's getting closer to Roman, and it looks like, oh, are they going to make an alliance against CM Punk? No, they're not, because Roman Reigns, uppercut slaps the ever-loving shit out of Seth Rollins.
Yeah.
And that should kind of give you an idea of where this match is going. This was all of the things. There were so many things. Reigns was able to pull off his drive-by on Seth Rollins. Then he repeatedly slams Punk's head. There were multiple instances of all three men landing their finishers at various times in this match. It was insane. I want to say there was also a point where, was it Rollins or Punk? It might have been Rollins. Kind of early on in the match, slams Reigns into the steel steps, which leaves Punk and Rollins to fight their way into the crowd and hit each other with trash cans repeatedly. As a triple threat match, there's no DQ, so this is totally legal. And so they beat the crap out of each other up one side and down the other and back towards the ring. And then something I don't recall ever seeing Roman Reigns do, Roman Reigns takes out running and jumps over the top of the barricade and hits both Punk and Rollins with just this flying crazy man splash. Yeah. And I had no idea that was in the arsenal of one Roman Reigns. Maybe that's why he's the one. Because he caught air. Them Jordans were working because he was flying like Jordan. He should call that move his private jet. It was insane. But then Reigns throws both of them back over the barricade, and Punk lands, on top of the Prime dispenser, or the little cart that the Prime bottles are on. And then Roman throws Seth over and then proceeds to hop over and start beating Seth up with the big Prime bottle. And then I want to say he tosses CM Punk back into the ring. And moving on from there, I'm trying to recall. Let's see. So I think he grabs hold of Punk and smacks his head on the apron and then headbutts him. And, Punk fights back. And it was funny the way the announcers said it. They were like, "Oh, Punk's fighting back." And we were like, "Yeah, what else is he supposed to do? He's in a wrestling match." They acted so surprised. And he rolls, at that point, Punk rolls Reigns back into the ring. And then he proceeds to mock Roman. And he goes for a running high knee, but Reigns counters with a big Samoan drop. Reigns then uppercuts Rollins, who's flying at him. I think he was trying to get the big flying knee, and instead he got the big flying, taste slapped out of his mouth. And then Reigns kind of poses to the crowd. and he goes for the Superman punch on Punk, but Punk avoids it and instead turns it into a swinging neck breaker. And then Rollins comes back after, realizing that he doesn't have any taste in his mouth, but he still has to finish the match. He buries his shoulder into Punk's midsection. And then I think he goes for a jumping attack or a middle rope attack. And what was it? Oh, that's right. They were near the ropes, which is why Rollins buried his shoulder into the midsection of Punk. And he was hoping to double over Punk and maybe go for like a sunset flip. But instead of sunset flipping, he basically jumps into the position to be GTS'd. But fortunately for Rollins, he blocks it. And at that point, I want to say Punk gets a running high knee strike off on Roman Reigns, and then a calf kick to Rollins. And then they're both kind of in the corners, in opposite corners. Seth is and Reigns is, and then allows Punk to do, what was it, like 4 or more of his running high knee strikes to both of them. And, this sets the tone for the match. Without going into every bit of the rest of this match, there was several series of Reigns attempts to do a Superman punch, but then gets hit by Seth Rollins, who then is hit by Punk. And so it's just back to back. They're hitting moves off on each other, including their finishes.
Yeah.
And that leads us to a situation, what you described, where Reigns attempts to spear Rollins at one point and gets countered into a pedigree, and it looks ridiculous. One of the other major high spots is near the latter part of the match. Punk is outside, and Rollins gets in Reigns' ear and starts talking about he doesn't deserve to be here. And it looks like Reigns is going for it. And Rollins goes out, grabs Punk, he clears off the announce table, and it looks like they're setting up for the old Shield powerbomb through the table. And Reigns even tells Rollins, get him up, lift him up, and he's getting hyped for it, and the crowd's getting hyped for it. They're like, oh, it's the reunion of the Shield. Except, once again, Roman Reigns uppercuts the taste out of Seth Rollins' mouth, then grabs up CM Punk and basically decides he can do it by himself and powerbombs Punk through the table hardcore. Punk is dead now. But Reigns then turns his attention to Seth Rollins and gets him up for a powerbomb. This time earlier in the match, Roman cleared off the Spanish announce table, so it's clear. So he lifts up Seth Rollins and powerbombs him through the table. And immediately after the powerbomb, both of these powerbombs looked devastating, by the way, and the tables fully were, compliant. They exploded with each man that went through them. Reigns rolls Rollins back into the ring and hits him with a crisscross spear. And we're like, oh, this is it. It's done. Because, Punk can't do anything about it. And Rollins just got, a full-on crisscross spear, which I guess... I don't know if Reigns has used that very often, but we see Braun Breaker use it all the time, so maybe he went for it because he sees Braun do it a lot. Either way, it looked great, and I'm like, this is it. Rollins is dead, but he's not. He kicks out at 2 like a beast. And I'm sitting there thinking, what more does Reigns have to do to this guy? He powerbombed him through the freaking announce table and then super speared him. What do you got to do?
Yeah.
So Reigns, obviously displaying his frustration, he hops out and throws Punk back in the ring and applies the guillotine choke. So, clearly it didn't work trying to get Rollins, so now he's going after Punk. And I'm sitting there thinking, he's got this guillotine choke locked in. He starts out standing and it looks like it's gross, but then he, jumps up, wraps his legs around, and I'm like, Punk is going to have to tap or pass out, one of the two. Well, Punk says, nah, I don't. He ends up rolling Reigns over, forcing a 2 count, which makes Reigns break it, but then Punk turns around and applies the Anaconda Vice. And Rollins comes back into the ring, gives the middle finger to Punk, and grabs up Punk's legs and puts him in a sharpshooter. And Punk is selling the hell out of sharpshooter, like he's screaming about being in it. He's like, ah. And Reigns then, once he recovers, he gets up and he goes over and he puts Rollins in the trapped guillotine choke. And Rollins' counter to this, because he gets back up to a standing position, but he's still got Roman Reigns like latched on him like a leech. But from that standing position, he counters with a bridging Northern Lights suplex, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. But Reigns doesn't let go of the choke. So now Reigns is kneeling over the top of Seth Rollins, still holding this guillotine. And Punk sees this, and he runs over and he hits Reigns with Seth Rollins' curb stomp. And I'm like, oh my God, everybody's dead. He then picks up, I'm trying to think, was it Reigns or Rollins? I think it was Reigns he picks up to hit for the go to sleep, and he hits it, and I'm like, oh man, this is it. But there's a kick out. And now Rollins steps up, and Punk, I want to say, hits the go to sleep on Rollins. But right as he does, immediately after that, Roman Reigns spears CM Punk, and Rollins, who bounced off the ropes from the go to sleep, then bounces back and proceeds to hit a curb stomp on Roman Reigns. So Punk hits the go to sleep, Roman hits the spear, and Rollins then hits the curb stomp. It was insanity. Like, all three men are now like on the ground because they just hit, each one of them hit each other with their freaking finishes. And I'm just losing my mind. I'm like, this is the craziest, coolest, most epic match ever. But following that up, man, that was so insane. That whole sequence had to go off perfect, and they nailed it. But following that sequence, with all three men sort of laid out, we then see Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman's walking over to the timekeeper area, and he grabs a chair. And we're like, oh snap, now's the moment. Who's got Heyman's loyalty? Who's cashing in a favor? And Paul Heyman gets into the, he stops in front of Roman and Punk, who are both still down from those moves, but they're looking up and they realize the situation. And so they're appealing to Paul Heyman, give me the chair. Well, Heyman walks into the ring and he gives Punk the steel chair. And so we're like, oh man, so I guess he's siding with Roman Reigns. Well, most people would be there. I'm sitting there going, I have my prediction. I still think it's in play. And it looks like CM Punk is about to hit the OTC with this steel chair, but then Heyman drops down behind him and hits him with a low blow from behind, dropping CM Punk to the mat. And then he goes and he picks up the chair, and everyone's like, oh, he's chosen a tribal chief. And he presents the chair to his tribal chief, almost like he's holding a silver platter, and he's saying all of the stuff. He's like, I acknowledge you, my tribal chief.
Yeah.
And it looks like Roman, who's got tunnel vision on the situation in front of him, is about to start wailing on CM Punk with that chair.
And he does.
But after a few of them, Paul Heyman points out that Seth Rollins at the other side of the ring is just kind of recovering on the middle rope, trying to stand up with his back to Roman. And he says, remember the Shield. Now's your moment, And so Roman Reigns takes a look over there now that he's laid out CM Punk, and he starts to walk over there. And just as he's about to lay in with the chair on Seth Rollins, Heyman drops to one knee behind the tribal chief and delivers a low blow. And for emphasis, he proceeds to waggle his arm around. So he's like, I didn't just bust the nuts, I mixed them into a milkshake. And this drops Roman Reigns. And at this point, I'm cheering because I'm like, I was right. And so everybody's like, oh, what? And Paul Heyman picks up the chair and he goes over to Seth Rollins and he hands him the chair. And he's standing there for a few seconds lining up his shot because it takes a fair bit for Roman Reigns to get back to his feet. I mean, the wise man, he really got him in the nuts. But Reigns finally stands up, and Rollins just destroys him with a massive chair shot to the back. And this drops Roman to his knees, which, of course, puts him in a perfect position to be curb stomped. And that's exactly what Seth Rollins does. And with CM Punk demolished from the chair shot beating that Reigns had just given him, there's nobody there to break up the pin. So 1, 2, 3. Seth Rollins wins. And after the match, Paul Heyman raises Rollins' hand, and we see Heyman walking away with Rollins, and everybody just bewildered at the shocking turn of events. And they're like, no one saw it coming. And I was like, well, they wait.
Right.
I saw it coming.
Are you sure about that?
And that was how we end night 1 of WrestleMania 41. So, what were your thoughts?
Land a lot. You know my thoughts. I started out from the get-go. Like, I marked out for this entire freaking PLE. It was phenomenal. I don't know what WrestleMania Night 2 is going to bring to the table. It's going to top this. Like they're going to have to be cheese. RKO Randy Orton's gonna have to fight Jesus himself to make the next night just as good as this one. Phenomenal. 9.5 and up. This was great.
I fully agree. Night 1 was absolutely amazing. I know I mentioned the blemish that was Charlotte and Stratton, and relative to everything else going on the card, and even on its own, it was. But everything else was so good.
Yeah,
that this still stands as like a 9 to 9.5 for me.
For sure.
This was amazing. The matches that were amazing were absolutely outstanding. Absolute moment makers. Jey Uso winning the way he did against Gunter, moment maker. The absolute banger of a match between Jacob Fatu and LA Knight, moment maker. And, Naomi versus Jade Cargill, superhero versus supervillainess, moment maker. And, of course, the triple threat match at the end of the night, absolutely just nothing but highlight reel moment maker. So this was an absolute banger of a night 1 of WrestleMania. Top tier all the way.
Top tier.
So after recovering from WrestleMania, because again, we felt like we had been through an event. It was a show of shows, as advertised. I just want to say thank you to everybody who listened to this episode, and I hope you will all join us for our next episode, which should be our coverage of Night 2 of WrestleMania 41. And, oh, man, I hope they can keep the momentum rolling.
Keep that same energy, y'all.
I'm here for it. But until then, there's not much left for me to do but roll the outro.
Bye-bye, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Top Tier Wrestling. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest AEW and WWE news and shows. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. Follow us on social media for updates and to join the conversation. Until next time, everyone, remember, wrestling is always better when it's top tier.